If you're an audio fanatic like me, or just thinking about how to upgrade how you're listening to music or podcasts, you have to know about Victrola. They have been bringing innovation and style together since 1906. I'm going to tell you about one of their products that I got called the Journey Plus. It's a great sounding Bluetooth speaker and record player that's affordable and can link to my other Bluetooth speakers. It sounds so good and now sits on top of my old record player. They have over 30 different color options, so it fits in any room of the house. And of course, I got mine wrapped in denim. If you've ever seen us perform live, you know about my obsession with wrapping guitars and other stuff in denim. But they already did it for me. Right now, to show off their online record store, they're having special savings like free shipping on orders over $35 or more, as well as a great deal of 15% off if you buy 3 records from their record store. I got the new Run the Jewels record. I got a Stone Temple Pilots Holland import. They have tons of stuff on there, so make sure to check it out. So go to makingnoisepod.com/Victrola for your savings. That is makingnoisepod.com/VICTROLA for your special offers today. 3, 4. Make some noise! Welcome everybody to Making Noise. My name is Todd Johnson, and with me as always is Mr. Jay Connor.
What's up, y'all?
What's going on, Jay? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little tired. We had our first
gig of the year.
First gig of the year.
Full band
Revolvers gig.
It was like 5 of us up there. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was great. Made me so happy too, like something with this podcast. If we had Dan Hood on.
Yeah.
And then kind of by the end of it, we're just like, hey Dan, what are you doing this weekend?
It's like, hey, you should come play this gig with us, Dan.
Do you want to play this gig with us?
I still can't believe y'all made me cut that hole in the mask and just stick the horn through it. This is going to be some weird video.
There was no video. That's not what happened. It was a perfectly good, socially distant outdoor event. It was great.
Yeah, we were very far away from everybody. Everybody was very far away from each other.
Yeah, and it was super cool.
It was a whole lot of fun, man. I'll tell you what, after not playing gigs like that for a while, I got a little beat up lip.
Yeah.
Lip be hurting today.
I had permanent Batman voice right after, because if I'm not paying attention to how I'm singing and I'm just getting excited, it's just right afterwards. It's just like, this is where we load the car. This is where we pull up. I see your boy Anthony Mackie on the the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Anthony Mackie, yeah. I went to high school with him. In Winston-Salem. We used to play pool together all the time. He was a super cool dude.
Nice, man. Yeah. Is it weird seeing a guy you went to high school with be an Avenger?
I mean, like, it's kinda.
Okay.
Kinda, yeah. It's luckily I didn't go to 4 years of high school with him and didn't know him like from the time I was a kid. I think that would make it way weirder.
Right. Okay.
But it's really great because he was such a great guy. And just to see somebody have that level of success,
yeah,
I mean, you couldn't wish it for a better person.
Gotcha. Cool. If you were an Avenger,
mm-hmm.
if you were a superhero, what would your superhero power be?
I'd be able to sit on people and they'd never be able to move. No, what kind of question is that?
I don't know.
What would my Avenger power be?
What would you say if you were a superhero?
I don't know. Probably something with telekinesis. I always thought that was cool. I'm gonna throw this thing at you with my mind.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's rad.
That's a good one to pick.
Stop your bullets like Neo.
Bam. Done.
Just like this.
Done. Like, what if you just had that superpower and you never really had to use it? Like, because I've never been shot at. So
I've never been shot at either, because maybe I do have it. I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Let's maybe not. Let's not.
No.
Let's not invite any of this.
It reminds me of Reno 911. You ever watch Reno 911?
Yes.
There was a whole season where it was like the beginning of every episode. They were always trying out bulletproof vests, and like they're, all right, are you ready? And they're shooting at each other, and sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can work this transition out. I know what our next guest's superpower is.
Really? What is it?
This guy is a fantastic singer, songwriter, phenomenal violinist, and multi-instrumentalist. This is our conversation, as well as we have a performance from him at the end of the episode, so make sure to check it out. This is our talk with Emanuel Wynter. So you said that so you said you're a suede guy?
Yes.
Suede guy, was that like a choice, or did it just kind of happen?
I just realized that I gravitated towards suede so much. So I don't know if you've seen my new amp. It's newish.
No. Did you get it wrapped?
I bought a 1965 Bandmaster, and then I had a 112 cabinet made with red suede and like black diamond grill cloth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I mean, you need to get a case for that thing immediately.
Oh my gosh, I've gigged with it, and I'm like, I'm
so
super
scared.
careful with it, and I definitely need to get a case. And I'm doing it as soon as I can.
Yeah.
As soon as this spring gig money comes in.
I know. Have you noticed, like, just with the last few gigs that like the amount of people just going insane? Just going insane.
A lot, man. I did a gig. I did 2 gigs yesterday, and both of them it was just like a lot of people, more so than than it has been. One of the places I've been playing at consistently for a while, and
Where's that at?
So Oh My Soul in Noda. I've been playing there, a lot, and they had people coming in like January, February, but I played there yesterday, man. It was like packed the whole way through. And then I also played at the Artisan's Palette.
Yeah.
And it was like super crowded in there.
Did you just walk between the two of those?
Not with all my gear.
Well, you could have had your little radio flyer or something.
Get your little card going. Like with 20 Ride, are you guys still doing some of that stuff, or what does it look like for those sort of things coming up? Is that like a tough area right now of still being, because it's so much easier to do the solo stuff now than it is to do
Very much so.
any of the full band kind of things?
Very much so. Well, so 20 Ride still has stuff in the calendar, but it's not like how it was before.
Right.
The whole world went up in flames. And it's a slow resurgence, but I do think it's happening. But we've still got some dates there. We'll even be traveling a little bit. We're going up to, Virginia, going down to Florida. So there is stuff. It's just not as frequent as it was.
Right,
before.
right. Yeah. Well, that's cool that you're able to still kind of see some of those things. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. Like we did like a thing in South Carolina yesterday, and it was, everyone with their different regulations depending on where you're at, and stuff. But I mean, it was cool. It was outside. It was socially distant. It's still that weird thing of like you're playing as a band, but they're, the closest people are still like 40 feet away in their kind of area. And then there's the next cluster, and it's cool. It's good to be able to do it, but it's still a little odd. But I mean, just the fact that we can do it at all is fantastic. But
I would say so.
yeah. But dude, you've also been doing like a lot of your original stuff and picking that up this past year, which is great. I think the first time I ever really knew of you was when you put out Iced Coffee, which is still one of my favorites for me. I like the new stuff you do, but I really liked Iced Coffee. And then it was like I knew of you from that, and then bumped into you. I think Courtney Lynn and Quinn's open mic. You may have been featuring there, the Thomas Street thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty positive that's where the first time that I saw you too, because you and I went to that, and we were talking about this beforehand. I was like, I just remember that song, man, about caramel in my coffee, and he was like, oh, iced coffee, yeah, I love that too. And I'm pretty positive that was that the first time too was over there at Thomas Street.
I miss those sort of things a little bit, man. I'm waiting for that vibe to kind of pick back up.
I'm waiting for it too.
Yeah. So you're one of those guys in town to me that is a go-to call-up session player. And a lot of people really love having you on their stuff and having you in there, but you're also one of those guys who still does so much of your own original stuff. Which one of those kind of came first as far as the songwriting, or were you always kind of getting in the music scene? And I mean, like where did it kind of start for you?
Well, it started as me being basically a hired gun. And like I started playing out professionally, like on a regular basis. in like 2015, I believe.
Okay.
That was like the summer after my freshman year of college. And I came here and I was like, man, let me just find music things to do, right?
Yeah.
And,
Come here. Were you from somewhere else or?
college, well, I was living in Charlotte since 2007. I moved down from New York, and then I went to UNCG.
Okay.
So for a long time, I was just a guy that like people would call, like, hey, you know, you want to play this gig with me? Hey, you want to do some studio work? In the back of my head, I knew that I wanted to do original stuff. I was scared to take the jump.
Right.
You know?
Right.
A band that I was playing in, I still play in, called 9 Day Trip. Shelby Stover, the lead singer, I think he heard me sing, like I was just singing to myself, and he heard me sing. He was like, "I'm giving you a mic.
Right.
You're going to start singing backup vocals at the show." And that was really like, before then I was afraid to, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Why are you giving me a mic?" You know?
Right.
And then I did, and it kind of started from there. I thanked him before for like giving me that push that I needed, because I don't know when I would have done it myself. You know?
Was it something that like in the back of your mind you're kind of like, man, I kind of want to sing on the mic?
Yeah.
Okay, so you always kind of had it, but you also like didn't want to be. I don't want to be rude.
Yeah.
You just needed somebody to give you that kick.
Yeah. And he gave me that kick. So I started singing backgrounds with 9 Day Trip, and then I was like, all right, well,
and just kind of picked
now
up.
I'm singing. Let me see if I can write something too.
Yeah.
And then in 2017 is when I wrote Cosmos, which was the first song that I put out. And then it was just a long process of writing it, recording it, deleting it, re-recording it, deleting it, re-recording
Right.
it. I was still learning how to record, and I'm still learning how to record like
Yeah.
3 years later.
Do you record all your own stuff?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and all the while I was still being a hired gun, you know, getting called up. So it's all, I would say that all of my experience has helped me, you know, be able to do what I do now, and I'm thankful for all of it. It's all
Right.
It's been an awesome ride so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's you know, I grew up kind of you know, very much in like cover bands and stuff, you know, earlier, and I think that really helped develop kind of some songwriting, or develop an understanding of kind of what needs to go into it, as well as the recording stuff and all that kind of stuff. And you said New York. We talked about this last time we were hanging out. I remember now. You Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, Bronx.
Oh God. Like, when did you start playing?
So,
Especially getting to UNCG. I mean, that's a really good.
Were you a
music
Suzuki
school.
kid? Did you learn Suzuki?
I was a Suzuki kid.
Okay.
Yeah. So the school that I was going to, this was the first grade. I was they had violin classes, and I thought it was cool, and my friends were in there, so I told my mom to sign me up. And I mean, my mom had already decided as a mother she was going to make me play something, right?
Okay.
And I just happened to choose violin. If it wasn't violin, it would have been trumpet or something else. She was going to make me do something.
Right.
So I chose violin, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I stuck with it. And then from there, I did private lessons up until when I moved down here. And then when I moved down here, I did middle school and private lessons. Middle school was kind of boring because I'd already been playing violin for several years at that point. And like,
Gotcha.
the way they do it is they do it as though you're just like picking up the instrument and learning it right there.
Right.
So I was just like, dude, I know how to play an F natural.
Well,
Right.
Like, you don't.
It was school orchestra stuff,
school
right?
orchestra.
So in this area, a lot of kids would have started
Right.
in 5th or 6th grade or 7th grade. And that's why I asked you about the Suzuki stuff, because for those of you that don't know out there, Suzuki is a method where they teach little kids how to play stringed instruments by basically imitating what the person's doing, right? Yeah. So it's a way to get that creative process flowing and get the two areas of the mind linked up a little bit to give you a jump start. That's why a lot of times you see, by the time violin players or any stringed instrument player gets to high school, they're usually more advanced than the wind players. They start way younger because I
thought when you said Suzuki, like it just meant like you're riding around on a motorcycle.
Suzuki method, yeah. So put your finger here. See where my finger is.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Like UNCG, I went to UNCG for a little bit as well.
Oh yeah.
Were you in the music program there or? No. What did you do? What were you doing up there?
Man.
What dorm did you stay in? I was in Cone.
Cone, okay. I had a friend who stayed near Cone.
Cone was the dorm that they showed off. Like my door was literally whenever they would do campus tours. Mm-hmm. My door was literally across from where they showed off what our dorms may look like on campus tours, and it was like they would do them daily. So every day there would be some RA could bring in some parents by, and they would always say, "Okay, this is the worst dorm you could get in. Mm-hmm. Everything else, like this is the bare minimum of what you can get. Everything else will be probably a little bit better.
Yeah.
We have so many more new dorms, but we just want to set the expectation low." And it was like every day someone would walk outside of my door and say, "We just want to set the expectation low. This is what it's like living in Cone."
Yeah, I stayed in South Spencer.
Okay,
that was my freshman year. I stayed in South Spencer, and then my sophomore year, me and my two friends moved into Jefferson Suites, which is newer.
Okay,
they built it in I want to say 2008.
Okay, yeah, that would have been like right when I changed schools, whatever. So was there any playing with did you play in college? Did you ever meet up with guys and jam there or do that sort of stuff there? Or
so I'm trying to remember what I did my freshman year.
Me too.
I just remember getting a letter that said you're on academic probation. That's when I started paying attention.
I think in my freshman year, so I went to UNCG because I was convinced that I needed to get a professional degree, right?
Absolutely.
That was what I was telling myself. That's what I've been told. You play music, but get a professional degree. So I was interested in architecture. So I was in their IARC program.
Okay.
Interior architecture, and I did that. I didn't do much music things in Greensboro. I'd take trips down to the music barn. I'd walk down Spring Garden and go to the music barn, see what gear they had.
See what the new thing, whatever new is out.
Yeah.
Go hang around and be like, it's a cool guitar.
Yeah,
Not realize you're the annoying kid.
I'm pretty sure I was the annoying kid to them. I'm still annoying. I went there a couple of months ago. And I was just I grabbed one of their guitars, and then they had a Laney amp. You usually see Laney amps around.
Not in stores.
No, they're Lionheart series, and
yeah, Laney's are cool.
But I was playing through it, spent hour and a half, 2 hours there playing it.
And then this kid in the corner will not turn this Laney amp down. He's just over there just ripping, going nuts.
No stairway.
Yeah, stairway. Denied.
But yeah, no, my the music stuff didn't really kick off till I came back after my freshman year.
Gotcha.
When I came back, I just went to a bunch of open mics. Because I was.
And that was here in Charlotte?
Yeah, down here in Charlotte.
I think the open mic scene here is better, personally, than when I grew up in Greensboro, yes, for sure.
I would. It's definitely different. There's definitely more going on here in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. I did find a really cool open mic in Greensboro my sophomore year, at the People's Perk.
Okay. You really had to search for it.
You had to search for it.
You really had to search for it. And there was no, you kind of had to know a guy who knew where it was at.
Yeah.
Because it was very much that way. I remember it was that way, trying to get shows in the band I was in college. It was we had to know. And once you were then in the scene, it was okay. But it was nowhere near as, I wouldn't say it was near as open, but it's just Greensboro really is just more, it's Greensboro, but then there's all these rural areas around it.
Yeah.
To an extent, or somewhat more rural areas around it than to know, if you live in Greensboro, to know that there's this open jam in High Point. Right. Or that you need to go to Jamestown to see these cats. Right. You really had to know.
And that's what I find even today, the musicians I know who are based in Greensboro, play
Play out of town.
out of town. Like they'll drive an hour up the road to play.
Yeah.
At some winery in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of times you go straight up to Danville. Yeah, we go straight up to Danville all the time.
I know a lot of folks who would go up to Danville.
Yep.
So they'll go over to Durham. Burlington, all Asheboro, it's very much like that. And at that time, I hadn't written anything,
right?
To perform, but I was just going there playing my violin covers. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting to play,
Yeah.
But that kind of was my.
Were you jumping in with people who were doing original stuff?
Yes, I did.
And see, I think that's a good.
And that was how I broke into the scene in Greensboro, sort of, kind of, pretty much.
So when you say playing violin covers, what kind of stuff were you doing?
If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys is always one of my favorites to play.
Okay.
That's surprising coming from a kid from New York. I wouldn't have mentioned that.
So still mainly in R&B kind of genre.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be at what, because obviously you started out classical, right? And it sounds like that was what your training and all that kind of stuff was in. So at what point did you make that jump? Did you say, oh man, this classical stuff, I'm not feeling it as much?
That was high school.
Okay.
So my mom found Jazz Arts. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's an organization in Charlotte. They do a lot. They do classes for students. They do concerts. I was enrolled in Jazz Arts, and I was learning, about jazz, about improvisation, about the standards, about the culture. They even were well connected enough to bring in real deal professional musicians in to come and talk to us. So I think the first semester they brought in Donald Harrison, which was really cool. And then they had a master class with Delfeo Marsalis.
The trombone player.
Yeah. I got to meet Wynton Marsalis.
That's awesome.
Christian Scott,
oh, cool. They had a good budget then. They
They were making things happen.
Awesome.
That kind of kick-started me doing non-traditional violin stuff,
And so do you feel like you kind of became a big jazz head in a way, or was it more this is just another thing that kind of adds to, something else that you're listening to? What was music like for you growing up before you had what would your mom be playing in the house? Or
all sorts of stuff. My mom, I feel like she did a really good job at exposing me to things. So even when I was young in New York, she'd take me to concerts at Lincoln Hall,
cool.
Whether it be jazz or, classical, we'd go there. My family's Jamaican, so, we would listen to a lot of reggae, a lot of dance hall.
First generation or second generation or?
I'm second generation.
Okay.
'Cause I was born here. My mom came here for school. So I feel like I was pretty well exposed. So by the time my mom found out about Jazz Arts, it wasn't really a new thing. Now playing jazz was new because I never had prior experience about improvisation, but it wasn't new. But I would say that I learned a lot. I learned a lot in that experience, and a lot of that that gave me the tools to do everything I do now.
Right. That's awesome. That's super awesome, especially at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people still at it's middle school, high school, it's just you're just still figuring out just kind of how to play it or something, but to actually, how does this apply to a real world situation? How does this apply to playing with other cats that are going to hop up and play with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the first album or music that you bought with your own money?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. We haven't asked any other musicians that. That's actually a good one.
Oh, man. I think middle school I bought a T.I. album. And then I didn't buy anything for a while after that. And then...
Yeah. Well, you also were growing up in a time where certain of us didn't buy things. There were these things. There was Napster and LimeWire, and anything that you wanted was kind of at your fingertips.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Man, I use Napster pretty
aggressively.
Yeah.
I messed up.
I remember crashing my mom's computer. I
messed up my grandfather's computer with LimeWire. Yeah, and even like to this day, I mean, it's sort of, you can get any song you want pretty much on. So I usually reserve purchasing music to. You
want to have the
albums
experience.
that I have a deep connection with because it resonated with me. So I mean, I've at this point I've only bought a handful of things like the Leon Bridges CD, his first CD. I bought Bruno Major's first CD. I bought Gary Clark Jr.'s first CD.
These are all people that do a great modern version of like what a lot of people would almost be considered like a throwback in a way. I mean, especially like Leon to me is the perfect example of like the modern soul singer. And I mean Gary Clark, I mean, he's a guitar player. I still nerd out on him as well as, and he's one of those guys where it's it's not sometimes the most technically proficient of what he's doing, but he is the guy that shows emotion in every note, and there's really something to that.
Yes.
So those were kind of like people that drew you a little bit, kind of as an original artist, and I kind of feel that's a little bit of where I'm driving with the questions, because I kind of feel that sort of stuff with what you do. As far as kind of being so much more a musician first before becoming a songwriter. Are the things that, because like a lot of people, like I know for me, like I would try to doodle song ideas when I was a kid, but it wasn't, and everybody kind of does that a little, but then I'm like, then for me it was like, well, I need to figure out this guitar better so I can get these ideas out of my head. But you kind of have this, do you feel like there's a way with your songwriting that's framed a little different because you kind of, when you first started doing stuff, as far as you said kind of Cosmos was kind of like your first. Was that one of your first songs that you ever sat down and said, I'm going to write a song? Or did you do a little bit before then?
No, I would sit down and try and write songs in middle school and high school. They weren't good.
Right. Oh,
and
yeah.
then I had been exercising that creative muscle. And then by the point I had got to Cosmos, I was just like, all right, I was more deliberate. Like, I'm writing a song. This is going to be what I'm doing. I'm putting this out
for the world to see it. They're going to know that. Yeah.
Right.
So now that and that's a big jump to do, of kind of going, I'm just writing this down, just in a creative area. Do you feel like you're kind of in this perfect area now of, do you feel like your voice is defined better? Not necessarily your speaking voice or anything, but like your voice and your point and what you're wanting to say. Do you feel like it's a little bit more of a defined, sharper arrow, or are you wanting to kind of jump from one thing to another a little bit? Like, where do you kind of find, what makes you want to write a song? What makes you want to make a point and say those things?
Well, pretty much everything that I've written up to this point, even the stuff before Cosmos, has been very like personal, like firsthand experiences, memories, feelings that I've felt strongly. Like it's all been very like introspective, reflective,
almost probably therapeutic.
Yes, I would even say that too. It's all been about me, and I've thought about this. I've thought about sort of writing about things that like don't come from me. And that's something that I've been exploring, and that might be something that I put out in the future. But the majority of everything has just been very reflective, very introspective. I'm processing my feelings, processing the things that I've been through. And that's kind of what I've done with my music. And some of it, I'm sure people will be able to relate to. Some of it, people might not be able to relate to.
Right.
You know,
Well,
I'm putting it out regardless.
Well, right,
so.
right. And I think if there's ever, authenticity, I think shines through. So even if you're trying to, do something that's not necessarily, about an exact experience that you've had, I think you still need to put a little bit of yourself in it. And I think it was the newer one you put out, the Distant Love. Is it Distant Love?
Distant Love.
My Distant Love. I felt that way about it. I just it felt very authentic, and I mean, everything that the stuff that you put out feels that way. It feels authentically you. And I think if you're, wanting to mess around with, going down a different road, that's cool. But as long as you kind of keep something to yourself and, if you start writing songs for other people, just for other people, then it's usually not very good anyway. Mm-hmm. One thing I did want to say too about Distant Love, it had this really good original feel and sound, but still definitely had a classic soul thing to me. And there was a moment that the first time you start playing, you do a violin lick, it sounded so much just notation of what a saxophone would be. It almost played a trick on me a little bit, as it sounded like a violin playing a saxophone part, which is something that's so I didn't really realize until listening to some of your stuff, and it's refreshing, but how much violin isn't really an instrument that pops up a lot in R&B and soul, and it's really cool to hear that.
Not as a solo instrument. I mean,
outside
of a string pad.
You would hear strings. You hear strings all the time, but and then there's a horn or a guitar that's doing a lead thing, but to hear, or piano, but to hear violin, I think it's a cool thing that you've kind of, instead of saying well, okay, I play this instrument, but I'm wanting to do and this is what you do in soul, this is what you do in R&B, it doesn't feel like you do that. Are there rules or anything like that you're going in with this kind of stuff of saying, I'm not going to play this sort of stuff, I'm going to do this sort of thing? Is there a statement that you're making musically by what you're adding or not adding? Or are you just kind of having fun with it?
I guess you could say there is a statement, and to an extent, I guess. I've noticed the thing that you mentioned just now about the way that violins usually come up and not even just R&B, but a lot of genres of music, violins are used for texture, right. Background strings, or where you do see violins sort of take a lead is folk music, where fiddle,
it's a fiddle, or a violin,
right.
Well, or fiddle, country,
right.
Well, there's such a very close connection between any bluegrass and any jazz, anyway, right? Because jazz is highly influenced by West African music, which is also part of the thing that influenced bluegrass. Although a lot of people probably wouldn't say that, because the scales are very similar at times. It's still the feel, right, is very, very close, especially if you get into newgrass kind of stuff with Tony Rice. You look at the perfect example of that I think of is, if you've never listened to it, listen to the track Spain, which is a Chick Corea from Return to Forever tune, right? One of my favorite jazz tunes. I played it one time. It's great. That Tony Rice version of it is awesome, and it translates so well. So, and it also shows kind of your flexibility and what you're able to do, right? Because, right. I mean, from talking at the beginning of when we started, one day, I mean, you're probably playing a rock gig, and the next day you're playing, almost your neo soul stuff, and then you're doing Zach Brown.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've noticed that violins usually don't come up, and it's so much so to the point that when I was looking at jazz, before I really got into it, I didn't know of any jazz violinists.
Right.
There's a good few that were doing their thing. They were doing really, really awesome
you gotta
things.
Dig deep.
I needed to dig for that, right?
Yeah.
So in high school I was interested in blues, and I was interested in jazz, and I didn't have any violinists to look up to. So what did I do? I looked up to guitarists, right?
Right.
and I was listening to B.B. King. I was listening to Jimi Hendrix and Gary Clark Jr. And speaking of which, those two dudes are the reason why I bought a wah pedal. Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I could easily see as a guitar player, it's like I make this joke a lot of times with bass players where I'm like, you play guitar first. Like you could tell, like
Right.
by the way someone plays or how influenced they are. You absolutely easily could tell you're a violin player influenced by guitar players, by rock and blues guitar players.
Yeah.
Because it's a very you know, it's a very emotional, ragged, on the edge. You always feel like it's getting ready to go off the rails a little bit, and you do a really good job of being technically proficient and always making it feel like you're getting ready to go off the rails. You know.
And yeah, and that and I feel like that is the reason why my music is the way it is, because I look to guitar players for influence, and the way I use violin in my music, it's used as a lead guitar.
Yeah.
That's why at my shows I have a tube amp and I use pedals that I plug into. A lot of violinists go direct.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, and it works. But for the sound and the feel that I go for, I want to have an amp pushing air behind me, and I want to, you know, I want to use a dirt pedal if I want to. I want to use my wah-wah pedal if I want to. So yeah, that's kind of the that's a big reason why my music is the way it is. It's why violin is used the way it is. Also, I really feel that people should be more open to things going differently than what they would expect.
Yes. Especially with music.
Especially with music.
Yes.
Especially with music.
Yes.
So like, I know people don't think of violin as like a lead instrument the way that I use it.
I think they do once they hear you play. Personally, I enjoy the way you play a lot.
Well, I think it's not that they don't think of it; it's they don't think of it within that genre. Because you're not going to go see a bluegrass group that doesn't have a killer guy out there playing fiddle.
Right.
Because that's the point. That's why they have those fiddle conventions. That's why those dudes shred, right?
Right.
I mean, and even going back, I mean, Electric Light Orchestra had, you know, string. I mean, that guy had what, like a cello or something? I mean, I'm not the greatest ELO fan in the world,
that sort
but
of stuff. Yeah,
you know,
I mean, but it was that was drawn more from a Beatlesy,
right. It's a rock thing.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying though, as far as like, you know, guitar is obviously one of those instruments that's going to go across multiple genres as a lead instrument.
Be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas, you know, sure, there's fiddler conventions, you know, but that's it. This is the genre. This is the lane. Yeah, I get what you mean by that for sure.
So it's really great to see you out there doing that, man, and sort of, I mean, and to push the boundaries of the instrument for you. You know, it's outside of what you originally started with, and you found this other niche, and you really enjoyed it, and it's obvious when you're playing.
Yeah. So in that way, I'm making a little bit of a statement.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think it's a good statement to make. You know, because you're also doing the balance of making sure that you're presenting it in very good songs, and you know, it's the Brad Paisley joke. It's the putting the medicine in the bologna for the. You know, to make sure the medicine goes down for a pet. Yeah. Which you don't really want. I mean, we shouldn't be comparing fans to pets, but it is one of those things. Sometimes, you know, this is a great song. This is a great band around it. This is all this wonderful things that will draw you into it. And then by mixing it up and changing things up, you know, and nobody is remembered unless they're making a little bit of noise. Unless they're shaking things up a little bit.
That's true.
If they're not rattling the cages, it doesn't matter. You know, and, you know, you're just kind of doing the same thing that's always been there. But yeah, man, I think it's great, you know, with what you're doing with it. And I can't wait to see, do you have, as far as with 2021 coming up, do you have anything as far as with your original stuff that you're planning on doing, or any thoughts that you're playing with that?
If I don't put something out in the fall or at the end of the year, then it'll probably be 2022. I kind of like not having a deadline.
After this year of me having tons of deadlines and then they all went away in March 2020, I'm kind of fine with not having a deadline either, dude. I get it.
So yeah, I don't have any deadlines. I'm recording and I'm working on stuff, but I'm not saying when I want to put it out.
Don't
I'm
do
not
it.
telling
then.
anyone.
That's fine. But would you want to play something for us today?
Sure.
I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's kind of reset some stuff up, man, and we'll have you play for us. But
Well,
I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for doing this.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's been fun.
Yeah, thanks, man. And now with the performance of his song "Walking in Vain," this is Emanuel Wynter.
Wandering through city streets looking for one in a million. If I walk and I don't stop, maybe I'll run into someone familiar. I know I'm walking in vain, but at least I know I tried. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll take it. If I go eat at that spot you said you'd love to show me when I'm in town, that's where you'd be. And after all this talk, I'd get to meet you for the first time. I know I'm walking in vain, but at least I know I tried. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll take it. From a distant admirer, trapped in the past, who's been shot down in cold blood, the casualty, the circumstance. I know I'm walking in vain. Whoa, but at least I know I tried. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll take it.
gray. Are you colorblind?
No. Is it gray?
Yeah.
Are you
Or maybe
sure?
I'm colorblind.
Maybe it's gray brown. It's a brownish gray.
What color is the hat?
Okay, so right there it looked gray. But
Okay.
like when you have it on your face, it looks kind of brown to me.
That's probably because I'm so pale
Yes.
that in comparison, it pales in comparison.
Pales in comparison
Okay,
to
that
your
was
face.
our fantastic performance from Emanuel Wynter. Make sure to follow him. He is he's wonderful. He's a wonderful guy, wonderful human being, and fantastic songwriter and violinist. Thanks for checking us out. Review us, share us, do whatever you want
Hit
to
that
do.
like button.
Shoot us some more emails. We've gotten some emails lately at makingnoisepod@gmail.com.
Todd's very lonely. He needs something to read.
Yeah, please send us whatever you want, even if it's hate mail.
If we have any grandmas out there that have some granddaughters around, 30 to 22, is that your age range?
20, I don't know about the show's over, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.